Well, good afternoon. First off, everyone, Albuquerque Transit, great job each and every day, but also thank you for helping set this up for Mayor Rusk and his family. So a round of applause to everyone at the Transit Department.
I'm going to stand here so I can hear you.
Okay, that's right. He's better hearing on his right. So if you want to talk to the mayor, come say hello and stand on this side. So there's a lot we wanted to cover. I'm going to touch on just a few things because we also have an official proclamation. We have a sign. There's another sign over there. But I think, first let me just reflect for a moment before we talk about the mayor just on this facility. So, right, this facility, it's an oldie but goodie, and we're not giving up on it. We are in the process of redesigning this whole facility. And there are some renderings in the atrium and so forth that are awesome. It just is fair warning, it is not funded. So, we're going to get there. It's just a question of like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. But this is our next sort of shining star we're gonna have for the transit department. But we decided that we should really start in kind of reverse order by rechristening it to send a signal both to honor our past but also to signal that we're going to be revitalizing this facility. So, and I know there's lots of wind and flapping. Good try, guys. It's okay. I know the wind's a little tough there. We're getting a sneak peek. It's okay. So we're going to rename this Yale Transit Facility in honor, of course, of Mayor David Rusk. And for us, we always like to rename things as part of our Stories of Us project. We have a whole project to rename things. This is one of the crown jewels of it. But we're renaming things all over the city about folks who've lived here and who've done amazing things in Albuquerque, both big and small. We're renaming little atriums at parks. We're renaming benches. We're renaming trees, all in the spirit of celebrating people who make our city a better place. So sometimes they're large things like this transit facility, sometimes they're small things. And this is probably the 20th or so project we've done with respect to the Stories of Us. And it's been something too where we try and make sure we pick facilities that are not named after anything. No offense to anyone who may have gone to Yale or, obviously the street's named after the university and this facility is named after the street. But these are the kinds of things, right, that we want to have a name that reflects something about our city, not necessarily academic institution back east. So for us, we picked Mayor Rusk for a number of reasons. But I want to say the first one is because the only thing I ever knew about you from day one was that you rode the bus to work. And so if you didn't know that, he was famous for riding the bus to City Hall when he was mayor. That's right, round of applause for that. And I always laugh because I have done that twice. I am lucky enough, I live close enough, I just walk. So, but Mayor Rusk was part of the city when it was really in a critical point of whether we were going to be an urban city, right? Whether we were going to sort of honor the notion of a city, or we were just going to be sort of a hub with a lot of houses in the center of Albuquerque. And so I think in many ways, this was the hallmark of what he brought. And his words were, we should be a civilized island amidst a sea of nature. And it's a beautiful sea that we still love and enjoy. But that notion back then of urban planning, of a commitment to progress, of inclusive growth, and of sustainability, all of those were, by the way, in vogue back then. And of course are now in many ways critical for us now. And he was a believer in public transit, of course, and in smart growth, something that we still battle with each and every day. But he really set the stage for that version of Albuquerque. And it's actually been a blueprint that he has laid out that we see continuing to break through today, even with our own free fares. So Mayor, now it's free to ride the bus. And Mr. Kelleher, he said it was a nickel, in the 30s. Well, can you imagine if it was free? I mean, who would have thought it'd be free now and it was a nickel in the 30s? So kind of a cool thing, actually. So we continue to try and deliver on our public transit. We're also doing something called micro transit, which is very cutting edge and very cool. I think you would love it. It's where you actually call for a bus nearby you, and it's a mini bus, and it kind of comes close to you and picks you up and only takes you regionally. So it's something we actually copied from developing countries, and now we're using it here in 2 quadrants in Albuquerque. So I think too, let me just pause to check. Did you want me to do the proclamation? Where's our MC here? After. Okay, all right, so great. So next up, let me hand it over to our Director of Transit, Leslie Keener.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome back, Mayor Rusk. We're really happy to have you here and excited to get the opportunity to honor your legacy here by renaming Yale to the Mayor David Rusk Transit Facility. So as the director of ABQ RIDE, it's a pleasure to build on the strong foundation of city leadership such as yours, especially as we steer our department into the future. First, I want to call attention to the landmark behind me that now holds Mayor Rusk's name. It's really an important part of ABQ RIDE's history. It is ABQ RIDE's first bus transit facility, and it was actually operated by the ABC, or Albuquerque Bus Company, in the early 1900s. City's transit department, which was then called SunTran, inherited the infrastructure when it purchased the ABC in 1965. And it was actually the first city in the U.S. to take advantage of federal funding to onboard public transit as a highly efficient means of transporting people. So for about 40 years, this facility was the city's primary transit hub, until we moved into the Alvarado Transit Center downtown and then out to the Ken Sanchez Transit Facility on the west side in the early 2000s. So this centrally located facility houses critical divisions in the wheel of transit operations. It's mostly our support staff that's here right now, including training, IT, building maintenance, safety, and even supports the local nonprofit that you got to meet here and see earlier today, the Read to Me program, which from what I understand was able to distribute like 73,000 books to children this year, which is really huge and a huge impact on our community. So I'm proud to share that we currently are at, as Mayor had said, starting the design work on this building to rehabilitate it. We're currently at 15%, but we're getting very close to that 30% mark to renovate the facility, which this facility was built in the mid-1980s, so it is definitely due some work. And we will be working tirelessly for that funding to be able to secure it and renovate this building. In the future, we expect that there will be improvements to the space to not only provide room for the support staff, but also to provide room for our drivers and our mechanics and the staff that operates the fleet. So we're really excited about that. It's really important for us to have this central city location because it helps to reduce a lot of our costs, our deadheading, and our time for getting our vehicles to start their shifts for the day. So as we drive city transit forward, I want to call out a few things I believe you, Mayor Rusk, will truly appreciate. I know you've always been an ardent champion of equity, as Mayor Keller had mentioned. Zero fares has been a big triumph for us as the city, to have frictionless walk on, walk off. You don't even have to have a card or a pass. Has really opened up accessibility for people to be able to use the transit system. For sustainability, where we have a lot of alternate fuel sources, we just onboarded 10 plus electric vehicles, electric vans. And we have over 90 CNG vehicles, and we're also starting to look at possibly hydrogen buses for zero emissions by 2040. For a strong urban core, you may have heard Uptown Connect, and also in the heart of our city is going to tie transit to housing, which is a huge win for us as well, to get more people onto the transit system without having to use personal vehicles. And then in the public safety realm, we're continuing to grow our transit safety officer support, our CSAY app that had just recently launched, and also just a passion for transit within the community with lots of volunteer opportunities that we're starting to create as well. So Mayor Rusk, your name will represent the proud history of city transit, along with a celebration of its future growth and impact. So thank you for everything that you've done to make transit get to where it is currently, and we hope to make you proud in the future.
Thank you so much. Yes, all yours, Mayor. Get you kind of come around here if you can.
All right.
All right, there you go.
Well, I can't get the stopwatch stick going. So Mayor Keller, I'm deeply honored
by this and by your whole program of the story of us. Let me ask you to stand over here if you could. Yes. And this is just far beyond anything that I imagined. And I would like to thank you. I would like to thank all the folks here at Transit who've worked to make this particular day possible. And particularly, Mayor, I'd like to thank your own staff, Ileana Molina, and Deborah Bassan, and Tanya Lenti, who worked so hard to put this day together. Of course, the achievements of any administration are a collective process. And first and foremost, Mayor, for anybody who occupies a time-demanding, high-profile job such as Mayor of Albuquerque, the first partners are your family. And I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, Dulcia. Hey, come on up here, Dulcia. Okay. Who was not only in the process of raising 3 teenage children, but also carrying out a very successful career as a real estate agent, as well as being a gracious First Lady of Albuquerque. And then our 3 children, Gregory, Patrick, and Monica, who were always great kids, but they especially watched their P's and Q's in the 4 years that I was mayor. And if you don't think that's important, ask me down at the KiMo reception about a story of Mayor Dennis Kucinich of Cleveland, and I'll illustrate this. Of course, Mayor, you and I both benefit from being at the pinnacle of a very professional, very skilled pyramid of city staff and employees. And I certainly benefited from that. And, I was the 3rd youngest member of the mayor's cabinet. So many of my colleagues have passed on. But Fabrizio Bertoletti is here. Where are you, Fabrizio? There he is for the staff. And got anybody else? I didn't spot any of the other staff here. Okay. And finally,
Bruce Hicks.
Bruce, where's Bruce? Hiding behind the camera. Oh, there you are. Oh, you were hiding behind the camera there, Bruce. And then, of course, in Spanish, there's a saying, el hombre propone, pero Dios dispone. Man proposes, but God disposes. And in the context of Albuquerque city government, the mayor may propose, but our God who disposes is the city council. And all of the things that are cited, the citation as my accomplishments, could not have happened without the members of the city council. And Mayor, there are many things that the city of Albuquerque benefits from still, but one of them is that in my last year as mayor, we passed a half-cent increase in the gross receipts tax. The first quarter cent by a 9-0 vote, and the second quarter cent by an 8-1 vote. And the only negative vote was from Councilor Tom Hoover, who just said we thought I'd digest the first quarter cent first, but didn't make a big deal of it. And so it was not an issue of controversy amongst the 10 mayoral candidates and a dozen or so council candidates in the very next election. And to this day, I think that half-cent in the gross receipts tax is the basic foundation of revenue flowing into the general fund. And so I think we should all give a round of applause and appreciation of, and in memory of the members of the Albuquerque City Council of that era. For the City Council. So thank you very much, and I'm very, very honored by this. And we'll hope to see you all down at the KiMo, where I'll have a few more stories to tell.
All right.
Okay. We can bring this to the Okay, so we have a couple of more things to do, and as Mayor mentioned, everyone's invited to the KiMo. We have kind of a little second hurrah to honor Mayor Rusk. But what we want to do also today, especially in honor of this unveiling, is also just reflect on his career in a little bit more formal and fun way. And so, Mayor, we're adding to your many plaques a executive order making this Mayor Rusk Day in the city of Albuquerque. So it may, I don't know if you had these when you were mayor or not. You probably did.
Well, thank you so much.
And we'll bring it down to the KiMo for you.
Okay.
So I'm going to summarize it just for a minute if you want to stay up here. So, and especially for us, the first part is, you mentioned you were one of the youngest on your cabinet. I think that's something we'll share. Hopefully someday in the far off future, I'll share a similar story, because it's a way of also saying the beginning of this proclamation says, whereas Albuquerque's mayor from 1977 to 1981, that was the year I was born. So you were my first mayor also. But Mayor David Rusk initiated bold policies and was an insightful urbanist who strategically allocated resources to enhance public safety, smart growth, and revitalize downtown. And of course, your homage to what it takes to do that with council and taxes. You can't do it without funding. And so I appreciate you recognizing that. We also talk here about, of course, that Albuquerque's original bus hub, critical facility in conducting ABQ RIDE's operations, now will forever hold Mayor Rusk's name to highlight his contribution to public transit and to many aspects of our urban life in Albuquerque. Whereas also, downtown revitalization was first and foremost for Mayor Rusk. And we're heading to the KiMo Theatre next because it was under his leadership we actually purchased that landmark and preserved it. And, I never knew which mayor did that till you told us. And I think all the mayors since, other than maybe the last two, all took credit for that. Isn't it? Well, I'm the one who saved the KiMo. I mean, that's like a favorite mayoral line in this town. And so also we want to acknowledge that the beyond downtown revitalization, but even things like pedestrian-friendly corridor and outdoor dining, these are two things we're now have renewed interest in. And traffic is bad downtown because we're adding bike lanes. So get ready. But I feel like it's fitting that you get to see that happen too. So with that, we now proclaim in the city of Albuquerque that today, February 11th, 2025, is Mayor Rusk Day. Congratulations.
Thank you. Let me say a couple more words.
Sure. Okay. Sure.
Stay right here.
Okay.
Well, Mayor, Dulcie and I have lived for the last 3 decades in Washington, D.C., but our heart has always been in Albuquerque. And indeed, every day I get the feed of the stories and headlines from the Albuquerque Journal, and my Google feed knows that I love stories about Albuquerque and New Mexico, so I'm constantly seeing that. And I can say that I'm really very happy that for the last 8 years, Albuquerque has been in such wonderful hands, and I will certainly hope from afar that will continue for another 4 years.
Woo!
Thank you very much.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Thanks, Mayor. Okay. All right, that was just classic mayoral work right there. You got to give him credit. He's still got it. So we want to do our little countdown. 3, 2, 1. I think a lot of the folks are with us on the last stop, but we also just wanted to acknowledge Mayor Rusk's contribution to this facility. So if you weren't, and I have to laugh because at least Bob takes credit for the KiMo. I take credit for fixing it. I don't even remember what we fixed. The roof, the floor, lots of stuff that you can't see, but that have preserved it. So, but every mayor has pitched in, but it was Mayor Rusk who actually is the one who bought it and preserved it as a landmark. And so fitting that we're going to dedicate and honor that legacy with a plaque on this wall. And also, in a fun story, when I was talking to Ileana, who I think is here again, who helped us put this together, I said, we'll ask Mayor what he would like us to kind of commemorate. And, and Ileana, I think, said something like the KiMo, and I was like, that's gonna be a little tough. It's already got the name, we can't rename it, it's historic. And then she was like, no, just the orchestra pit. And I was like, the orchestra pit? Sure, why not? You want your name on your orchestra pit? Yeah, you got it, Mayor. So there is a fun little plaque in the orchestra pit, which I know folks will have time to go see after. So I am going to say one other thing about Mayor Rusk, but I wanted to tee up. I would love to hear your story about the orchestra pit, why you specifically wanted that. That has been a mystery for me. But I also want to acknowledge his book, which I have actually read. Do you remember when you gave me this?
Oh, absolutely.
My first day or first week or first year, he was in town and came to visit and gave me his book. And I remember reading the cover and being like, inside game, outside, I don't even get it. I got it pretty quick right after. Because there are two games, right? It's like the internal and the external game. So it was actually an extremely good book and something I've always remembered. So just wanted to plug your publication too. So now let's hear from Mayor Rusk.
Well, as I said at the Transit Center, for which I'm certainly very honored, I think this program that the mayor has initiated, the story of us, is very valuable and appreciated by everybody. And I'm part of the ancient history because when I became mayor, the day I was sworn in, Mayor Keller was 8 days old.
Wow.
And so it actually was Mayor Harry Kinney who proposed the bond issue in 1977 that provided the funds to purchase this building as a performing arts center. And that passed. It was several $100,000. But it was unusable. The theater was unusable for any purpose. And when we purchased it, Commonwealth Theaters had a monopoly on all of the movie theaters in town, but their local headquarters was here in this building, in these offices in the front of this. And they left some files behind. And Ellen Clark, the director of cultural services at that time, went through those files and found some files which showed that Commonwealth Theaters bought up the KiMo, bought up Sunshine, bought up the Strand, bought up another downtown movie theater expressly for the purpose of closing them and throwing all the business to their multi-screen multiplexes in the Heights. And so the story of downtown's decline was not just that it died, it was murdered in that. And so that made it all the more important to try to bring this back as a performing arts center. Well, architect Harvey Hushauer designed a major renovation and expansion, which would have included picking up the Freed's property next door as an small experimental theater space, major renovations, and with my contacts with the Carter White House, I was one of President Carter's favorite mayors, had been his campaign manager here in Albuquerque. I got a $1.8 million economic development administration grant to be matched by $1.5 million of local bond issue in the 1979 bond issue to do this major expansion and renovation. Well, the voters turned it down. And we had to send the EDA $1.8 million back. And Harvey, bless his heart, and leaves his widow is ill today and couldn't join us, but she has a representative here. Where is he? There he is. He worked on the renovations of this. Harvey scaled it down, and I cobbled together money from this city budget and that city budget to come up with something well less than $1 million to get air conditioning into the building, to do update the restrooms, to do basic, and to build an orchestra pit, because I dearly wanted to move the Albuquerque Opera Theater from Popejoy, which was too big for us, to the KiMo Theatre, which we did, and the Albuquerque Opera Theater was a principal tenant of here for certainly the next half dozen years. So that's why I identify, Mayor, with the orchestra pit, because that was really my heart and joy. Yeah. And so I would also like to repeat something that I said up at the Transit Center, that these are all collaborative efforts, but Dios, el hombre propone, pero Dios dispone. Man proposes, but God disposes. And in this case, the mayor proposed, but the God who disposes is the city council. We have former city council member Bob White with us today, and I'd like to thank Bob for his support and for the very fact that he was not one of those who leaped all over me when I cobbled together the money for the KiMo. Now, I would like to say one other thing in honor of Bob's successor, Alan Reed, as a city councilor from the same district. Ellen and I collaborated on a change, which, if anything, and you can't put a plaque anywhere for it, and because it's all over Albuquerque, and you mentioned it briefly in your remarks, but up until the time I became mayor, there was no outdoor dining permitted in Albuquerque restaurants. You could get a pup and taco or a lotta burger and sit there on their steel benches and have something, but you couldn't go to a restaurant to be served outside because the city environmental health ordinances wouldn't permit it. Now, the head of environmental health, the food services at that time, was Peter B. Griego, whom we all knew as Peter B. And about 2 months into my administration, I invited Peter B. to have lunch with me, obviously at a downtown indoor restaurant. And I said, Peter B., describe to me why the city doesn't allow outdoor restaurant dining. and he talked about the wind and the dust and the flies and the hot sun beating down on the potato salad and all these things.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard him out very politely. And then I said, well, Peter B., what you're really telling me is that for centuries, 1 billion Europeans and Latin Americans have been wrong. And Peter B. sort of blinked, and I said very gently, Peter B., write a new ordinance. And we reached out to Councilor Ellen Reed, asked if he was interested, and he was indeed, and he and Peter Borrego worked up a new city ordinance that allowed for outdoor dining, but took care of problems like hot sun and the potato salad. And Ellen very successfully lobbied that with the other members of the council. It passed, I think, 9-0. And so, for as many people as enjoy the KiMo, or as many people use the transit system, I'm willing to bet that even more people enjoy dining outdoors at restaurants and on rooftops in restaurants all over town. So when you're enjoying a dinner up at Nob Hill or anywhere all over town outdoors, lift a glass to Mayor David Rusk and Councilmember Ellen Reed in recognition of that change. Thank you, Mayor.
Sometimes it's, it was like an episode of Parks and Rec, even back then, Potato salad in the sun, oh my gosh, call the mayor. Well, thank you so much, Mayor, for sharing that. And with that, we should probably pull this down here. I'll get it for you, but if you want to you can just lean there. If family wants to come around like the other time, might as well. We have some pictures some folks who can take pictures for you if you want to hand them your phone. And anyone else who wants to jump in, certainly welcome to. And Harry Kinney, he's the only mayor with longer sideburns than me. Second longest sideburns in city history. Okay, so let's see. On 3. 3, 2, 1. All right. There we go.